Hey everyone, Eric here. Once again, I'm in the garden, and today we're going to be talking about the life cycle of corn. Before we get into this video, I would like to thank you for tuning in to our latest episode of Life Cycles. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at EBLLC, INC. Like this video and watch all of our other videos. We have lots of new content coming your way, and we don't want you to miss anything. Make sure you hit that notification bell to be notified every time we drop a new video. And now, let's move on to the video. As some of you probably already know, corn is a summer crop and does very well in warm climates. It's a tasty crop, it's sweet, and you should grow it in your gardens. Corn that we're growing in this garden that we are at now, I will show you in a moment what it looks like right now. Is probably, I believe, in its 4th to 5th week of growing, and it's doing pretty well. It's the sweet corn variety that is normally grown here in Georgia in the South. And so for the corn, we have started it in a very sunny spot. It gets a minimum of probably an hour to 2 hours of sunlight. Not sunlight, but shade, and the rest of it is sunlight. Ooh, going under a tree. And so the rest of that is sunlight, and it gets it about 6 to 8 hours a day of that sunlight. And we do have a watering schedule, another tree, where it's 3 days max between each watering that I do. So say we water on Monday, the next time we come out is probably Thursday. And we try to maintain that schedule because the summers in Georgia are starting to get even hotter than before. And we don't want to have the soil or the plant dry out. And so what we do to prevent the soil or the plant from drying out is to not only help it with that watering schedule, but to also help with the way we plant the corn. And so we use a mixture of garden soil, compost, worm castings, and mulch and straw. So using a mixture of garden soil, peat moss, compost, and some worm castings, I laid the foundation for the corn and green beans so that they would have a nutrient-based like home layer for their growing season. And if you're starting off with like bare soil that has already been used for previous crops, you always want to make sure that you add nutrients like your compost, like your peat moss, like your worm castings, because that is going to add the nutrients that your plants need when they're starting off from seed or when they're starting off from a seedling. So I'm just mixing up all of the contents that I've added into the in-ground area. I also like using cardboard instead of having to remove the weeds by hand, because it just gives a new look and it takes away all the work from, like I said, removing the weeds by hand. As you can see, like I said, I added all the compost, garden soil, and peat moss for moisture, as well as the compost will give moisture and retain moisture for the plants. We will have 2 rows going down this way of corn all the way to the end, and then in the middle I'm going to plant sporadically some green beans. So as the corn is growing, we'll have some green beans growing in between them as well. I would say every 6 to 8 inches I'm going to plant the corn. So plant one here, and then 6 to 8 inches about right there, just to give enough space. I don't want to plant too many corn, but I do want to plant enough so that if something happens to some of the corn, like a bug, a pest, or a disease of some kind, or the heat gets to the corn or green beans, I'll still have a good harvest to donate to families um, that sign up for our free produce package delivery. So, anytime, just to take a note, anytime that you're planting plants in your garden, um, whether it's tomatoes, broccoli, collard greens, okra, green beans, you want to make sure that you are planting enough to where if anything does happen to your plants, you'll still have a good harvest at the end of the season. And so, as you can see here, we have our straw here. And like I said, we have a mixture of garden soil, compost, and then mulch on top, and then the straw. All of those ingredients provides moisture and retains the moisture for the corn. Um, and now let's discuss the three sisters. We have corn, green beans, and squash. I haven't planted squash over here because I planted squash. We've had squash over here for about 2 years in a row consecutively, and I didn't want to plant it a third time because it would continue to strip away the nutrients that squash needs in the soil. So remember that anytime you plant something, that specific plant will take out the nutrients that it needs to grow. And so when it's done in that growing season, the nutrients that it was using are not in the soil, and you have to always replenish it with the organic nutrients that you can find at Lowe's or Home Depot or any other nursery that you go to purchase your gardening plants and supplies. And so we don't have squash in this area, but we will have it in the area across from our greenhouse here to my left. But we have two of the three sisters. So we have corn and green beans, and squash is the third sister. And what I mean by the sisters is that corn, green beans, and squash are great companion plants.